This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom really is brought to you by...
What the fuck?
What's up, dude?
One of my renters broke the toilet again. That dude takes giant shits. Now I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Why don't you hire a property management company or something to take care of that stuff?
Because they suck, and they take 10%.
You know, our dude Hank owns and manages Heritage Realty Partners. I think he said he only charges 5%, and he visits each property at least once a month.
That's right. He's always posting beers from the road. You have his number?
Actually, I do. His personal number is 805-451-5734.
Perfect. Now he can deal with my renter's big shits.
Heritage Realty Partners.
For all your property management and investment needs.
This episode of Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by La Creme. Dishing up a delicious ice cream sundae? Don't forget La Creme. About to enjoy Mama's famous warm apple pie? Don't forget La Creme. Looking to spice it up in the bedroom with your special lady friend? Don't forget La Creme. Here at La Creme, we know that adding a sweet dollop of our especially fluffy and moist cream will bring tastiness and satisfaction to any exquisite dessert or erotic lovemaking session you're about to enjoy. Our creme is specifically made to keep its wonderful texture, no matter if it's put on a delicious scoop of ice cream or the sweaty erect nipple of your lover. So next time you want to bring pleasure to your life, don't forget La Creme.
I mean, is there a better mustache in the world to be fucking doing that right now? Like him saying La Creme with that stupid mustache over the microphone right now.
I almost la cremed when you said sweaty erect nipple.
Oh, holy hell, folks. It is a glorious Tuesday, and we're about to talk about an Inglorious movie. I'm a little bit excited. I'm excited. This can be one of my favorite all-time movies. Scotch, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Zach, how you doing?
Arrivederci. Whatever the fuck he says.
And Nate, how you doing?
Gorlame.
All right. Well, if you have not figured it out yet, folks, we were talking about Inglorious Basterds today. And, you know, in the BVK community, we've got all sorts of friends that have become part of the show. And we now have a friend of a friend joining us here. And he's now our friend. Tony, how you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic. Excited to talk about this movie. It's one of my favorite movies.
Now, Walter told me you are a Tarantino guy. Like that's kind of your main dude, right? As far as movies?
Yeah, definitely. One of the most influential people for me as far as like pursuing film as a possible career.
All right.
So it's not just because you like to jerk off to feet.
No, that was
It's not just that.
Okay.
that was established
That's just
long
a bonus.
before.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So, hey, we've got a bunch of folks sitting around microphones about to talk Tarantino. And Pulp Fiction is the only movie we have covered so far of his. So this is our second Tarantino. And I think I've said this before on the pod. It is maybe my favorite Tarantino.
That's nuts.
It's a wild take, dude.
For a variety of reasons.
I don't think it's that crazy.
I'm
with you.
You really like it better than Pulp Fiction.
Yes, definitely better than Pulp Fiction.
That's
so
some
crazy.
non-fucking sense right there.
And I really liked it. But that's
I
a wild take.
love it. I think it's a great movie. But better than Pulp Fiction?
I think at this point, I think maybe I've seen Pulp Fiction so many times that maybe, and because this is newer, maybe it just feels like I like to watch this more, because I did watch Pulp Fiction recently. It was on again. I watched it from start to finish for the first time in a long time. I enjoyed it, but I didn't get as much enjoyment out of my last watch of Pulp Fiction as I did for this again.
A lot of people have the take that like nobody just like something's on and so you just watch it anymore because everything's streaming and stuff. Not true for Scott. Scott's still got a DVR. He's still got a satellite dish.
I got rabbit ears.
Yeah.
just watch the edited version of Basic Instinct on TNT the other day.
He's like,
what he said.
He's like, I was gonna change the channel, but I'd have to get up and walk to the TV and turn the dial. I was like, fuck that.
So Tarantino, this is his 2009 film, and I have a weird relationship with Tarantino in the sense that I've always, like, from the beginning, have been digging Tarantino. Nate and I, it's been known that our senior quotes in our yearbook were lines from Pulp Fiction, and
Botched lines, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah, we screwed it up.
Mine for sure. Right?
I think mine might have been correct, and yours is like just a couple words off, but it's all right. But the whole Tarantino universe, I celebrate, and I am actually did not see this movie in the theater, which is weird because I was seeing pretty much Tarantino. But 2009 when it came out, I had a 3-year-old.
Housing market was crashing. And it was a tough time.
Yeah, my daughter was about to be born, and it was just like one of those things where I didn't get to the theater. It was like, this is my era of movie watching where I would catch things way later. I was not going to the movie theater at this point. It was just not going to be happening. So missed this one. But I've seen most Tarantino films in the theater. This is just one that I didn't catch until later. And once I watched it, I was like, oh my God, this is fucking awesome. Zach, what'd you do? Did you see this one in the theater?
No, I did see it at some point, and I know I had seen it. It's one of those ones where you watch it, like, it's long. I wasn't like super into it. I think like the plot was maybe a little hard to follow for me at some point. Like I liked it and I was like, oh, this is good, but I wasn't super into it. But
you were just kind of high.
Well, I'm trying to avoid saying that, but possibly. But yeah.
So this is his first alt history, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, because
because Pulp Fiction was based in reality.
First of three, right? It's
all history.
It's Inglorious, Basterds, Django, and Once Upon a Time, right? Those are the three.
Those are the ones that actually take real events and plug them into the movie. Yeah, I guess that would be true.
That makes sense.
And I think of those three, this is surely the most I mean, it's both the best and the most ambitious in the sense that the historical events are so sweeping, widely known, right? So it's he's not fucking around here.
It's weird because it's like, is it a Tarantino movie or is it a World War II movie? But it's very much a Tarantino. Like the World War II is just like the scene, and it's like it's still a Tarantino movie, like completely through and through.
Yeah. But it has some great. I mean, but it does in some ways, right? Like it's not like it plays, other than the Hitler sort of being a silly character. It doesn't overplay the sort of like silliness of World War II.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in the sense that even the backdrop of it, even though you're not seeing a bunch of the fighting and things, like it feels to me like it's trying to be authentic, for example, to weapons and uniforms and sort of like the hierarchy of what the way that would have played out.
Well, in occupied France, yeah. I mean, it's the idea of like where you're living. I mean, people still were just kind of going about their lives, but it just so happened that Germany was in charge of them, and that's a weird position.
Whereas, like I think comparing it with Django, I'm not saying that Django is inaccurate in lots of ways, but it definitely is a caricature of the sort of like plantation, slavery. Like you get the feeling like a lot of it is almost, made for almost like a spoof at parts.
Right. There's definitely some more tongue-in-cheek stuff.
Which I love. I mean, I love that
Django.
movie. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the whole thing with the hoods and the conversations with Jonah Hill and all that stuff, like gets a little bit silly in that one which I think that movie needed because some of those parts were heavy.
Fucking shit.
I think Django is one of the least rewatchable for me just because there's certain scenes that are so hard to watch again.
Interesting.
Some of those I love the movie too. But there's some scenes where they're fighting, like they're having them fight each other. That's brutal, and just all the torture and stuff like that. So did you guys know that this was an alt history going into the movie when you first watched it? Because I definitely did not.
I didn't know that,
and it definitely threw me when I watched it.
I didn't. I thought it was just going to be a World War II setting, and like they're going to be like sticking pretty much close to truth. But then when they just completely go out of left field and now you get the fun event of Hitler getting shot in the face 70 times. I mean, it's pretty wacky.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it, but I remember my first watch going, wait, what is happening? This is crazy. Like they're going to get out of this because Hitler's going to live, right? And then all of a sudden it didn't, and I was really confused. Really enjoyed it, and then this movie got better and better every time I rewatched it. You know,
I had that same experience.
It's almost like he replayed it though in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because
Right.
like that last scene is just that turns into one of like the most
Oh my
slapstick
gosh.
thing that Tarantino's ever done. Just about.
and that was one where I was so uncomfortable during Once Upon a Time because I was like, please be alt history, because I didn't know, and 'cause I hate spoilers. I don't like going into a movie like that with spoilers. I didn't watch it in the theater, and I watched it many months later, and I remember going the whole time, okay, please don't show the murders, because you love the characters and it's so bad, and I was like, oh, okay. Once Brad Pitt started doing his thing, I was like, okay.
Scott hates spoilers so much he just didn't go to history class at all. He's like, I don't want to know what happened.
So Tony is a Tarantino guy. Like, is this number one for you?
I think that for me personally, Pulp Fiction is my favorite of his.
Correct answer.
I do think that this is the best film that Quentin has done. I think this is the best script that he's written. I think that everything in this movie is the best version of what he had been trying to do in previous movies.
I like that take.
Yeah,
I think that's a very solid take.
And I've seen this movie probably 40 or 50 times at this point. I saw it not the opening weekend, but the following weekend. And I had so much hype for it going in that it was probably better that I didn't see it that first weekend, because the expectation was through the roof. And so seeing it that weekend, that opening scene is probably the best thing that he's ever written.
So great.
In terms of dialogue, in terms of the pacing, in terms of what he is always trying to do with dialogue, the musicality of it. And I read a bunch about it. I knew that he was kind of playing with history. I knew that I didn't know exactly how he was going to do it, and that was the beauty of it. That he always talks about how the things that I write are within a historical context, and the characters that I create, if they were real characters, this is what would have happened.
Right.
They would have had this premiere in this small cinema, and the Basterds would have came in there with their possibly terrorist plot, as Han says, and they would have ended World War II. That's how he thinks about his characters. He thinks about them as real characters within that historical context. And especially with this, and we mentioned Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, same thing, right? If the DiCaprio character, if he existed, he would go out and yell at the Manson family for
living next door,
going down this, he's paying all this money and you just coming down with your loud ass car, and then he would have flamethrowed, the Manson girl, whoever that was. But yeah.
I did see that he said that in one interview, he said that Brad Pitt in Inglorious Basterds is the grandpa or great grandpa of Brad Pitt in True Romance, of Floyd on the couch.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
it's just funny that he loves to tie things together like that, where he's he's going to have his characters kind of all within the same universe, kind of.
Right.
It's just an interesting.
I was
thing.
going to bring that up later for sure. The Tarantino verse of characters and names. There's so many, and I dig that shit too.
So one of the things we have, we're almost 12 minutes in here, and we haven't talked about Christoph Waltz. And I think, to the point of this being his best movie, right? Like, Tarantino is brilliant in this, but in some ways, I'm not saying he gets lucky because he casts him, but this is a breakout role, and he's so good in it, right? That this, he doesn't carry the movie, but he takes it to the true next level, especially where you think of Brad Pitt is you think of as he's got to be the guy, and he's on fire in this movie, right? And he's doing a lot of, and I would even say that maybe my argument, if I was going to make the case that this was the best of them for Tarantino, is that to this point, Tarantino is phenomenal with the dialogue, and he chooses actors who do things within the dialogue that make them great, right? Think of Samuel L. Jackson and the way that he takes the words and uses them and speaks them. And
was Samuel L. Jackson the voiceover guy?
He is.
Yeah.
He's just
Okay,
crazy.
good.
Yeah.
The Hugo Stiglitz guy.
Which I kind of wish you would have brought up on the voiceover draft, because the minute I was watching this, I was like, "Oh man, I should have at least thought
It's
this
pretty
about this
solid.
for an also ran at least," because I just love that fucking Hugo Stiglitz voiceover.
So I think for me, the thing is that Waltz is so good between the dialogue.
Yeah.
And for the first time, he's somebody who just like, and I think obviously with Tarantino in the directing role, but like the tension that happens in this movie and the way that he waits between things and the way that Tarantino lets that happen instead of like really, really filling everything with dialogue.
Right.
That's what to me makes it a different movie.
Yeah, I mean, Quentin has said this before, that he at one point couldn't cast this character because of the languages that he had to speak, the way that he had to deliver things. At one point, he said that he might not be able to make this movie because he can't find somebody to play this character. And he found Christoph Waltz in some Austrian soap opera, and he came in, auditioned. Obviously, he nails all these different languages. The way that he delivers lines, like he said, is so within that musical composition quality that Quentin has with his dialogue. Again, that's why this movie is so high on my list as far as his best work, because there's just nobody else that could have played that character. And literally, if he did not exist, this movie would not exist.
And it's wild to me that out of all these amazing characters that come before Inglorious Basterds from Tarantino, that Christoph Waltz is the first one to get like an acting Oscar.
Right.
And you can think back so many performances before this that you're like, wait, that didn't get an Oscar? Like, I mean, Travolta in Pulp Fiction, like, come on, like, how does that not get an Oscar?
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many like roles that I can think of that it's like, that was an amazing role. And yet he's the first one.
This movie got 8 nominations in different categories, and he was the only one that won anything, which is actually kind of, I like that, because if anybody's going to deserve the Oscar, it's him.
It's one of those movies, and it's not very often when you watch a movie and you're like, that better win an award, and if it doesn't, what the fuck is going on? Because like you watch that for the first time, and you're just like, this guy's maybe the best actor there ever is. Yeah. Like he's so believable, he's so amazing, he can do so many different emotions and get different emotions out of people. It's just it's God, I mean, we're going to probably talk about him, I'm sure, later on a little bit.
No, we're done. We're done.
That's it. His like mention again, and you're out the fucking pod.
That was it.
His maniacal laugh when she tells him that she got in a mountain climbing, like
just so over the top.
We were dying laughing. We were just like, oh my God.
Look at Brad just standing there kind of looking around like, what the hell? Love it.
But then like how he can go so serious, like, where was this mountain?
Right.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden you're like, oh fuck, he's very deadly serious.
The tension in this movie is just uncomfortable.
Oh,
I mean,
he's
in
also
the best way.
He's also like toying with people.
Yeah.
He knows the whole
everywhere.
time. Like that whole first scene, he's not figuring that shit out. He already knows.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's fucking with the dude. Which is like makes him extra evil. Which also I have issues with his character too. We'll get to it later, but
I want to bring up one right now that since you mentioned it is when he orders the milk for Shoshana at is that absolutely intentional, or is that a random coincidence? Like you can take it like a bunch of different ways.
He didn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd read or heard, or you told me that he forces her to wait for the crema because it's
La creme?
La creme.
La creme.
Sorry,
Yeah.
because it violates. It's not kosher. It's not kosher to eat. What is it? It's like probably the lard.
Right.
It's in the strudel with cream at the same time,
and he wants to see if she'll eat it.
or at least how she reacts. Right?
I don't
Like,
think I told you that, but that's interesting.
yeah, so I read that somewhere. Maybe like it might have been on.
There's so many little subtle things just like that, but like even the very beginning, the when the daughters are still in there and she goes to grab the milk and he grabs her by the wrist and he's actually feeling her pulse to feel how it's a subtle little thing, and he's like, okay, he can tell her heartbeat's going, so something's up here.
Yeah.
And so there's these little things that I didn't catch the first, second, third time I watched it.
Yeah.
And then, like all kinds of little details like that. And his face acting, like in between scenes, like he's all being all pleasant. All of a sudden it just changes. Like your harbor.
And there's times I wish I would have gone back and looked at the script, because I want to know, did the script call for an oversized novelty pipe to get pulled out in the middle of that scene?
Crazy.
Or was that just on the set? Like they like found a pipe.
I laughed out loud when he pulled that out.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's so
oh my
ridiculous.
God, so
Like-
ridiculous.
yeah. It's like it's showing his dominance with his pipe is bigger than his.
Yeah.
It's like,
if you read the script, it's in there. He describes it as like a Sherlock Holmes sized pipe.
Okay, so it was intentionally
Yeah.
a big pipe. Okay.
And it's that whole, it's the same thing in Pulp when Jules is like hamburgers and he takes his burger and eats it and then drinks his whole soda. He's just like, he's asserting his dominance over this character.
Right.
There's so many parallels for me between that opening scene in Bastards and the scene with Jules and Brett in the
Right.
Oh,
opening
yeah.
of Pulp. There's
Oh,
so
yeah,
many
absolutely.
different parallels there.
But yeah, trying to figuring out the situation, but also kind of being at the upper hand with the power. Yeah, okay.
Tony, I think it's Brad. I think it's look at the big,
we
look at the big
refrain
brain on Brad.
we only acknowledge it as Brad.
I've gone through this my whole life.
I've had it said to me multiple times, and I'm like, I hate being the guy that's like, it's actually Brett, but
Then don't be that guy.
sometimes
Then
I do,
just
sometimes
don't
it depends on the
be that
person.
guy.
He
Sometimes
can't.
it depends.
You telling Brad not to be that guy. Brad's like, let me tell you something about this movie.
Hey, gravity, don't pull things to the ground.
if you say Brett, you're a smart motherfucker. So.
All right.
A couple interesting things I wanted to talk about real quick. Let's
what
get.
can we move?
Yeah.
I got director things.
Well, you know what? We have the director's ambassador here. Tony is officially Quentin Tarantino's
Actually, I feel that a little bit.
So I think we're gonna just we had Tarantino come in that one time, and he was staring at our feet the entire time, and he was asking about all of our significant others' feet, and we were just like,
Our arch arc.
how high is your arch?
Would he find my plantar fasciitis sexy or intimidating? I want to know.
He loved your bunions.
We just had it.
Can I recommend you some Dr. Scholl's?
All right, we're gonna get him in here. Or let's have Tony the ambassador speak on behalf of Tarantino. So 1 second.
Pull up a chair and grab yourself a drink. We'll hypothesize what directors think. Maybe sometimes get a guess. Makes us look good. Let's drink, laugh, and pretend we know what we're doing. Drinking with the director, brought to you by Last Call Brewing.
So we've got Tony here to talk Inglorious Basterds. But before we do that, speaking of Last Call Brewing and Walter, our favorite brewmaster, let's talk about what we are all drinking around the table. What do we got here today? Scotch Beck.
I'm just keeping it simple and light tonight. I got a little bit of 805 cerveza.
805.
Yeah, it's crisp, refreshing.
You mean
and
the,
I'm tired of getting hammered on beer, so I'm just.
You mean the honey blonde? This is the cerveza.
Cerveza.
805? I've
Got
never
a hint
had
of lime.
cerveza. Okay.
Yeah.
Firestone Walker. But what is it? 805 originally was called like the honey blonde.
Yeah.
And then they.
Same exact beer.
This is my favorite beer when it's like during the summer, and even though we're in the fall, today it felt like the fucking summer. So I was like, I'm drinking one of these.
Very warm.
So, yeah.
Mid-October.
Super hot. I'm drinking the sister beer, the sister wife to Scott's beer, which is the Modelo Especial.
All right, a little Modelo going on. Nate, what do you got?
I got just the Diet Pepsi spiked with just the hint of grenadine.
Oh, okay.
Not too much. I'm feeling I want to take it easy tonight.
Sounds good. Tony, what do we got over there?
Got a nice glass of milk here. No. No, I'm doing the 805 as well, the cerveza.
All right. Well, I guess I'm the only one who's a friend of Walter's. So I've got the fresh can just about a week ago. Citra Bowl, 100% Citra, 100%. 100% Citra hops. It is a hazy pale that is just delicious. It's one of my favorite nice, easy go-tos. I think it's 5.5%, and it's on tap right now at the Last Call Tap Room. Oakdale, California. All sorts of new beers. They're starting to get their fall beers coming in. They're throwing Copper, which is a little red ale, and then they've got some stouts on the way. You know this,
That's
Scotch
when
right?
I get excited.
Yeah, that's when
So-
you start showing up.
So
Getting your beers off the board.
speaking of drinks, all of my questions for the director, I think, surround being a dairy farmer in 1941 and how long does your milk stay good? And, right? Like he doesn't have a refrigerator.
No,
He had like
non-pasteurized milk, I think,
Yeah, you
stays
can keep
good at
it
room temperature
temp.
for a minute. Yeah, for a while.
for like literally minutes. How long?
No. Like,
That's what the cool kids say now, dude. Minute's like a cool word.
Yeah.
But you also could get like
Yep.
some sort of crazy disease from it, right?
Probably.
I mean, sure. Like,
Well, you said it's
like
Why are we
gonorrhea
pasteurizing it? Why are we pasteurizing it? Yeah, it's gonorrhea.
There's people that still buy like whole real milk, like unpasteurized,
like red milk.
because they're probably worried
Wait,
about steroids
wait.
and shit. I don't know.
Is it unpasteurized milk?
I think pasteurized is what you're thinking.
Pasteurized is when they boil it to kill all the chemicals, and it's sold in the stores.
And then it goes bad quicker.
Right.
I think so.
I'm just saying,
No,
he didn't have a
we're
fridge.
all right.
And then
Somebody let us know.
I don't
this
know.
guy's drinking
I know
like
whiskey.
He was like sweating outside, and this guy's just drinking like a big glass of fucking like
Warm milk.
yeah. Like I don't know. I got
they
questions.
didn't shoot the scene where Hans Landa goes outside and just starts shitting his ass everywhere. Just
Dude,
That was
That's
the
why he didn't
director's
chase
cut.
Shoshana.
he didn't know he was fucking lactose intolerant.
He's like, oh, boy. And then he turned around. He's like, where's your shitter? Oh, so we've got Tony here. He's a giant fan. Actually, you know what? Before, let's do one quick little housekeeping. We're part of the Deluxe Edition Network, and there are some pods of the month.
For the spooky month of October, we
That's
have
right.
the Graveyard Club and Terror Tuesday are the pods of the month. You can go to deluxeeditionnetwork.com and you can check out some descriptions of these shows and many others. And just always remember that we are the podcast of the year on the Deluxe Edition Network.
Yeah, it's getting. We've got a few more months in our reign.
We got to. Speaking of milk, we got to milk this as long as we can.
That's true. That is true. So Tony, we like I said, you're friends of Walter. We are good friends of Walter, and he suggested when we were doing our next Tarantino movie that we have Tony, the assistant to the assistant director of all these movies that we like. So, how you've said Pulp Fiction's your favorite. Do you make it like an event now, like to go see Tarantino movies when they come out? Like, is it just like you're going as soon as you can, opening weekend possibly?
Yes, absolutely. I saw Bastards in the theater probably like 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
And then I saw Django opening weekend. I was pretty high on Bastards. I like Django. I think it kind of falls apart at the end, like story-wise, script-wise.
Did you do the Death Proof?
I did.
Planet Terror.
I did the
double
Grindhouse
feature,
thing. Yeah.
The Grindhouse double feature. I did that too. That was good times.
That was great. That movie. I think that Planet Terror is actually better in the context of Grindhouse than Death Proof because it's an actual Grindhouse film. It's not Tarantino's like, oh, I'm going to do a Grindhouse film, but I'm still going to have 4 people at a diner talking about
For like
something.
30 straight minutes.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into that one for some reason. I didn't love all those long ass dialogues and the performances were just a little bit too much. I did enjoy watching them get killed. Actually, because I was like, I'm tired of hearing you talk.
Let's get rid of these guys.
I do think the car chase at the end is one of the best car chases ever filmed.
Amazing stunt work
In terms of, him actually driving these cars 60 miles an hour with a human being on the hood.
And his girl, Zoe Bell.
Zoe Bell.
Nobody does that
Badass.
anymore. He's so. That's why in Bastards, the scene where at the end where they're in the theater and it's literal fires everywhere, and Eli Roth talked about how he thought he was going to die because it's like 120 degrees in there, and he's trying to act.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to act. I
Yeah.
have a problem with it. And we'll get to him later.
Yes, we will. We will get to him later because
So before to get into Inglorious, I do want to ask one more question. Do you think Tarantino is going to hold true to his one more movie promise?
probably. I think that he's been writing books lately. He wrote this book, Cinema Speculation, that came out last year, where it's part biography or autobiography, part him talking about like Steve McQueen movies or whatever. He seems like he's really in love with the idea of having this 10 filmography set or whatever.
Yeah, but he'll probably I'm sure he'll do streaming, series
TV
and
or
shit on TV.
I thought he
He's
already
gotta do something.
I thought he
right?
already announced that he was doing a series, like a limited series that was going to be 6 or 10 episodes or whatever it was.
Yeah, there's been some rumblings about a series based on the series that in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Westerns show.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There was a story that like Netflix would do a bunch of episodes of that and he would direct them. He also said that he was going to do a sort of a pseudo sequel to Pulp Fiction where Vincent Vega's brother and another
The Vega brothers.
yeah, we're going
That's
to come
right.
together. There are so many projects that he said he was going to do.
Vic Vega from Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, it was. And then the crazy one was I remember him talking about Kill Bill 3 was going to be until was it Vanita Green when her daughter was old enough to actually act, like it would be her revenge film against Beatrix. So.
That's what I want his actual last film to be, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Have there been any rumors about what his last?
It's supposedly a movie called The Movie Critic.
That's right.
It's supposed to follow some sort of movie critic in the 70s.
He was very deep on his love for 70s cinema, Hollywood, and
Yep.
just he's so into that.
There's a movie critic named Pauline Kael, who wrote a lot of movie essays and a lot of criticism in that era, and he's obsessed with her, talks about her all the time. I think that this character is kind of based on her, and there's probably going to be all kinds of people that are playing other actors, and it's just cool dialogue and fun music and all that.
So I'm maybe going to have an unpopular opinion here. For me, Tarantino is very hit and miss. Like, not in the sense that I think he's not. I mean, everything he does, I think, has a lot of worth. Like, I mean, you know, like it's good filmmaking.
Right.
But in terms of me really like being blown away and enjoying it, I would say the only three that really hit well for me are Pulp Fiction, Inglorious, and Django. I do not like the Kill Bill movies. Like, they are way too
Blasphemy.
I know, but and I don't like the Kill Bills. I borderline hated Once Upon a Time.
Really? So I was going to say I really liked Once Upon a Time.
Oh, I did
Now,
not.
I didn't like it my first watch, and it's actually become a lot more rewatchable the more it's on, since I do actually have it come on my TV every now and then. When,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, when you'll catch like 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there.
and I enjoy it. But as a whole, I think it's like, I think this one, Pulp Fiction, I mean, Reservoir Dogs to me is one of my favorite.
So I really like that one, but I haven't seen it in a long time. But this was so when you were talking about Oscars earlier and how like it was weird that no one had, because Reservoir Dogs was really an under the radar film at that time, and I think a lot of people saw it after Pulp Fiction came out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that one has some probably Oscar-worthy stuff had it been more of a mainstream consciousness
Some of the
film
performances
at that
in
time.
Reservoir are just
And the movie
incredible.
itself is a little more like a little less. There's less camp in it.
But he just
that I think
wrote it
sometimes-
and didn't direct it, correct?
No,
that was his
First
first.
direct.
That was his first written and directed?
Yeah, my cousin
True
Jer-
Romance. He didn't.
True
he did
Romance,
Not,
that's what I'm
He
thinking
did
of.
not
Right.
direct that.
My cousin Jeremy after Pulp Fiction was like, dude, you got to watch. Have you not seen Reservoir Dogs? So he was the one that put me on that. But so this leads me to a question I want to ask for the table. You can ignore my premise that Quentin Tarantino fits into this mold, but for me, I want to ask, would you prefer a director that has some movies you just absolutely love and then a fair amount of things you don't really like, versus a director that's more prolific and has a lot of really solid, well above average movies, but maybe just not anything or only one that is just like a special experience?
So who are we talking? Are we talking like Nolan versus Tarantino?
So
or
like for me, the classic, and this is one like our old castmate Nikki and I love to shit on, but not
Spielberg.
really shit on Spielberg.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's great, obviously. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to knock him as a director per se, but if I look at his catalog, there's not a ton there that I'm just like, for me, it's like the older stuff, Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Like it's
Jaws.
just-
Did anybody
Jaws.
here see the Bravermans or whatever it was, his most recent?
Fablemans.
Or Fablemans?
I've
I
not
heard
seen it.
people. Nick was very
That's
negative
what I'm
about
saying.
it.
Spielberg is, I mean, one of the best directors of our generation, of our lifetime, and it's like, it's not must see
That's my point.
movie for me. And I'd much rather have a Tarantino where I'm like,
Right.
I got to go see what this guy did.
Nate's point, I think, is that if Tarantino was more prolific and had more movies that came out, he would drop some stinkers and it wouldn't be such a big fucking deal that he's got a movie coming out.
I
Right?
think that's true, and still I want Tarantino because I actually don't think Spielberg really drops a lot of stinkers. It's just the reason you don't go see Fablemans is because you're like, they don't. I got to wait to know that this one's likely to blow my hair back.
Right.
Whereas, like, you know, with I think with Tarantino, you're like, there are few enough, and there are some that are just like, I mean, Pulp Fiction's better for me than anything, including Jaws. That, you know, I'll take Pulp Fiction over Jaws, right? And I know that's crazy. I'll take it over Raiders.
No, I think that's truth.
And I think like the other one that fits kind of in that category, and people will disagree, is Scorsese, who I think is like great. But I still also like maybe Goodfellas is his sort of top catalog. And I mean, people love it and I really like it, but like I'm going to take Pulp Fiction. And the other one I think of here is Cameron Crowe, right? Who really has some shitty movies.
Yeah.
But if you can give me
Aloha?
But Almost Famous is like
Vanilla
Classic.
a special experience for me.
First of all, talking about Scorsese in that way is going to make me leave. So,
Well, there you go.
Taxi Driver,
I mean,
Casino.
I like them, but I'm not like they're just not. When I say like I want to leave the theater and just be like, what just happened?
I will say with Tarantino, like I have not loved everything that he's done. I think that Hateful Eight is just a huge misstep for him, based on
I like Hateful Eight a lot.
based on the fact that they were hyping this movie so much about how they were using these 70 millimeter cameras, and it was supposed to be this really wide film stock that was supposed to incorporate so much of the picture.
And it was in like a 20 by 20
and it's all
cabin.
inside a room. Come on, like
The first 10 minutes look beautiful.
yeah, every exterior in the movie looks amazing, but like it's all in Minnie's haberdashery. And I know why he did it. This is basically a callback to Reservoir Dogs, because Reservoir Dogs is all in one room for the most part.
Yep.
But it took me a while to really warm up to that film. Like I said, Django is a film that I think, for the most part, I like, but kind of falls apart script-wise. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I liked because I kind of took away all of those expectations that I had, and just, kind of accepted the fact that Inglorious Basterds is going to be the best movie that I ever see him make. So I'm just going to have a good time with
It's all gravy from here.
the characters that he creates, the dialogue. Nobody's going to make a movie like this, so I might as well sit here and watch it and have a good time.
So I have a problem with this movie. And it is mainly that Hans Landa is built the entire movie to be this dude that doesn't make missteps and is a step ahead of everybody the whole time. And he is that until he isn't at the end, and he's made to look like a clown at the end and gets fucking swastika drilled into his head and fucking loses, basically.
So you're thinking he should have known.
He should have known that he's gonna
the
take
Apache
the fucking
enough
he's
that-
gonna take the fucking handcuffs off of this dude and then be like, oh, go ahead and handcuff me, and then think it's gonna
that's a
work
great
out
point.
great for him. I watched it today and I was like,
He wouldn't fall for
this
that
kind
trap.
of fucking loses the luster of the Hans Landa as this glorious villain for me.
Right.
That was definitely something. I rewatched this movie last week, and that was definitely something that I thought of. I was like, okay, this guy is so calm, cool, collected the whole time. Like you said, is always 3 steps ahead of everybody,
Exactly.
has all of the information, makes everybody around him look like a fool because they think that they're getting one over on him, and that's never the case. And he knows all about the Bastards, right? He knows that they carve swastikas in people's heads.
As soon as, because they know that when they get home, they're going to take off their uniform, so they want to
Right.
make sure
Yes.
they're marked.
He knows that they scalp
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Like, he knows all of this, and then again, it's that whole thing. And I think what it is like, well, you got to end this movie somehow. And there's this call, and there's this call back to, I know you're going to take that uniform off. I don't expect you to, so I'm going to give you something you can't take off. And it's just a call back to that first encounter that we have with Aldo.
You could maybe say that Landa, though, is like just so, at this point, it's almost like the pinnacle of his career. He's just so high on, I'm
so
everything.
great.
I'm so great. And he's just kind of in euphoria where
And
he's
he
not even really thinking about it.
did end the war.
He did. He knows he's going to be this
Yeah.
infamous person for the rest of his life, that he was basically the one who ended the war. And maybe he slipped. He got caught slipping at the end.
See, I just think if you're going to be that guy, you can't slip, right?
I think it's a great point, dude. I think you're making a really good point.
And I think that
But
the
then
way you end it, all right, I'm going to write down my alternate ending right now. For
sure.
Do it.
I was say, but if he doesn't carve the swastika in his head, you can't have Tarantino speaking directly through Brad Pitt, talking to everybody out there. I just made my masterpiece.
Yeah.
When that's essentially Tarantino saying, I just made the best movie that I've ever made.
Right.
And I love it. It's such a great ending. It's such a Tarantino, fuck you, like just the way he is. It's so Tarantino.
That's why it is what it is, because that he wrote that and he was just sitting there and he had like all these feet photographs all around him. He was looking at them just so glowingly, like, I fucking did it, man. I did it.
I'm going to say something to really piss Tony off. So I was thinking of my point, and I'm going to tell you that I will take Gus Van Sant and Frank Darabont, and you can have Scorsese.
Okay.
And that's a crazy take in the sense that they made one good movie each and just dog shit otherwise. But Good Will Hunting and Shawshank Redemption are things that I will be glad on my deathbed that I experienced.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like not movies I watched, like experiences I had in my life, and nothing that Spielberg, Scorsese, I mean, maybe Tarantino with Pulp Fiction, but none of those did that for me, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a subjective thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
everybody comes at it from a
Sure,
different walk
yeah.
of life. I think that the guys that influence me, they don't have a perfect filmography. Like, I love Scorsese. I'm a huge Paul Thomas Anderson fan.
Yeah,
I love
that, and he's a good one actually.
And I watched Licorice Pizza, and I was like, this is great. This is not as good as Boogie Nights. This is not as good as Punch Drunk Love.
I'll tell you what, how
But he's one I think of in this vein, right?
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
he's amazing. That one movie, right? I'll take
I
it.
hate to say it, but I also think that like it's also where you are when the movie comes out
Sure.
in your life,
Absolutely.
right?
Sure, no question.
It's like
100%.
you could have watched Good Will Hunting yesterday and been like, "Oh, I really liked it," but it wouldn't have the same.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Not maybe that's
I
a
hear
bad
you.
example.
No,
but you know what
but
I'm saying?
I hear
you literally just took my take.
sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's great because, like, E.T. when I was a kid was one of the most fucking mind blowing things I ever saw.
Yeah.
I love that movie. You watch it now, it's like, whatever.
Yeah, no,
Star
yeah.
Wars blew
Point-
my fucking mind.
Yeah, point taken.
Indiana Jones, like
Yeah.
that shit is so important to my childhood. So I have this nostalgic feeling, and I think
Yeah, that's fair.
Spielberg is fucking a god.
Yeah.
But I don't dislike your take at all because I agree
No,
with
I think maybe it is that everybody has a different one of those,
Right,
maybe, and I'm
right.
asking whoever delivered, and maybe it's Scorsese, and he just he happens to have one that really did that for you. I think my point is just there are certain movies for me that are transcendent,
Right.
as in your life if you like movies
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than it is like the catalog.
So Tarantino, he plays with history in this movie. I want to real quick bring up a point that I wish we could have played with history, is that Brad Pitt had never done a Weinstein Films movie. He'd never done a Miramax film until this. And the reason is that he threatened Harvey Weinstein because he was coming on to Gwyneth Paltrow or like doing some creepy shit to Gwyneth Paltrow at one point, and he like threatened him. And I'm wishing that that Brad Pitt would have actually like just beat the fuck out of him and brought attention to that early on,
Right.
so that motherfucker would have never done all the terrible shit that he did. So
Yeah.
No, instead he just made more movies with him, right?
no, he did not. So he stayed away from. He never did. He just did this one for Tarantino because he wanted to work with Tarantino.
But isn't Once Upon a Time in Hollywood involved
No.
with
No,
Weinstein?
that's
That's,
well after.
Is after?
I think that's a Universal picture, I believe.
Yeah. So that's just. I thought that like, man, why didn't Brad Pitt actually go over and just beat the fuck out of him and get national media attention, and then all of a sudden have been like, why did he kick the shit out of Harvey Weinstein?
Or if he could have just carved like a swastika into his
a
forehead.
dick into his forehead.
A dick. But like a real, but like a really red kind of like real pudgy chode type of dick.
Sort of angry, like
Toad
infected
from
looking
Super
one.
Mario Brothers.
I hope someone does. If you're listening in prison, just for me, go do that to Harvey Weinstein.
He deserves it.
Put a chode on his forehead.
A couple things, and Tarantino's always been very aggressive when people like try to like say, "Oh, a mistake in your film." Oh, why? Like he gets very like, "No, intentional here." And sometimes you might think he's probably a little full of shit, but there's a couple things in here in this movie that stood out. Is one, Shoshana's in the basement, does not speak English. 4 years later, 3 years later, or whatever it is, she's at the theater, and when she films her like final scene, she's speaking like pretty much perfect English. It's
We
like,
don't know she doesn't speak English. She just didn't make a noise when he fucking.
oh, so you're
said
saying
he
she
was gonna kill
heard?
him.
She
Maybe.
heard that we were about to.
I mean,
they were
she
about to
obviously
die?
moved far enough to not get
Right,
shot.
she was scooting
You
over
know
by
what I mean?
herself. I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, because it makes sense because she's the one that escaped, so she knew where to lay.
She got a fucking head start. I also think who's the woman that plays Shoshana?
Melanie
Laurent.
Laurent.
Laurent. Okay, yeah, we'll get French with it.
I looked at a bunch
Laurent.
of like movies. Like I don't remember her in anything else. I think she's spectacular in this and super beautiful.
Well, she's done a lot
What's-
of European.
Yeah.
She was in
Is
a
that what
movie,
it is?
Yeah.
She was in a movie called Beginners with Ewan McGregor. That's really good.
Okay.
But I
Those-
just don't
those
remember her like in any other roles. I feel like
No.
this would be like a big like taking off thing for her.
Right.
But
Yeah, this
Not
is
really.
definitely her breakout for sure.
then did she break out? Like
I think she's like world famous in like Europe.
is she? Well,
Well, I guess that the world famous in Europe doesn't make sense.
she's
that would be
world,
Europe famous.
Oxymoron.
she's world famous in
I don't know.
Pennsylvania.
I think there's a hell of a lot of people that are world famous in America. You know what I mean?
The second mistake is that when Hugo Stiglitz is always like portrayed as this like, I mean, obviously it was in the papers. He killed all these fucking Nazi officers.
Right.
And then yet he's in a bar with a bunch of Nazis.
And they don't recognize him?
None of them recognize that that's Hugo, whose face was all over German media. Like, how did, especially the one dude that sits
who
right
knows
next to
everybody,
him and knows, and like is like the evil guy. Like, you would think
Right.
that he would for sure know.
Who's an MVP? Like he's not in this movie for that much, but he's like a total scene stealer in that.
And he doesn't
Yeah,
have
he's
a line, does he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does he utter any words?
You're talking about.
He has a great name.
Malmstrom. No, wait. Hellstrom.
Hellstrom.
Yes.
Oh, you're no.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not talking about
The SS
Hugo.
officer.
Yes,
Okay.
the SS officer. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
that
great.
guy he's again that
He's incredible.
real pure evil. He's like almost like Christoph Waltz, like Junior.
Yeah.
In that sense of he kind of is ahead of the game, and when he gets some super uncomfortable scenes in that bar
Yeah.
where he's fucking with them and stuff, so it's like
That bar scene's incredible.
so much. Anything else we want to talk about with Tarantino related directing?
I want to know what Eli Roth had on him that Quentin Tarantino was like, oh yeah, you can play this Boston guy. You can do this terrible Boston accent. Teddy
Oh, fucking Teddy ball game! Oh,
Yeah,
knocks him
love
out of
that.
the park.
I always took that as kind of a like I kind of like that, and I always took it as kind of like a little hint of crazy, like he's this dude that's, you know, he's the bear.
He's not
you know.
6'5". He's not
Yeah,
250
he-
pounds.
yeah, it's
and
like-
he's got this reputation of being this freaking ball busting crazy dude.
Yeah, he's a nut, and
Yeah.
like doing the weird accent and kind of like screaming into nonsense.
I don't know. His
don't know.
performance
I
wasn't
liked
great
it.
for me.
Really? We don't like Eli Roth? I like him.
It took me out of the moment. And he's better later, like when he's doing the Margarete. That was great. But some that one scene, just the main scene.
he gets two great close-ups though. When he's got the bat and he's about to swing, and he's just
Yeah.
looking psycho, and then when he's shooting Hitler's face, his crazy look
That
that he
is
has in
great,
his
yeah.
eyes, he's just like. "Eh."
Which is very Scarface. The scene where Tony Montana is shooting off the balcony is almost a 1-to-1.
And that's the thing about Tarantino. I guess we haven't really necessarily mentioned is just how many homages to movies that I know I've never seen, and just all these different things. The music for this, he wanted Ennio Morricone, but Morricone was busy, and so he just basically, I'm going to take all my favorite songs and just plug them into this movie in different scenes. So it's just
perfect.
it's kind of wild.
So, by the way, real quick, back to Eli Roth. You know who he wanted originally? Adam Sandler.
Yes.
That
I
would have
remember
been
that.
some
I
stunt,
actually
that
did
would have been
that.
some stunt casting that I don't know.
I don't know.
I love it.
Well,
We got Mike
Punch Drunk Love.
Myers.
Mike Myers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
crazy.
You got
Yeah.
fucking the kid from The Office. You got
BJ Novak.
freaking
BJ Novak.
Yeah, BJ Novak, that kind of stands out as weird too.
Yeah.
he does not fit the period for me for some reason, and he just seems sort of out of place. It's probably because of The Office, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember when that movie was making the rounds on the interwebs that people were like, yeah, Quentin wants to do this movie with these World War II guys, and he wants to put a bunch of Jewish comedians in all these different roles. That's where the Adam Sandler thing came, and like all these different comedians that he wanted to play, because he didn't want these guys to be like these big burly like
Macho, yeah.
badass people. He wanted them to look like just regular Jews because they were going to be undercover, right? Like they're going to be dropped into France, and they're supposed to look like just regular people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Sandler would have his dramatic work is great. I think he would have pulled it off great, easily as good as Eli Roth. But that's just
I believe
my
so, yes.
belief. Yeah.
All right. Well, Tony's sticking around here, so let's continue on to our next category.
Are you looking for a place for all things horror and don't know where to go?
Well, you've came to the right place, my friend. We are the Graveyard Club podcast. For all your horror needs, visit us on YouTube and Spotify, and you can follow us over on Instagram at the Graveyard Club Pod. See you there.
Ciao.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you shoot his Nazi balls off, or take 'em home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's shag, snack, body bag.
Say goodbye to your Nazi balls. Oh man, that scene just gets violent really, really quick.
You got to give props to Brad on that one. I actually just had another version of that, and he's like, "I thought you'd shoot his Nazi balls off." So,
and then I started thinking in my head, I was like, it kind of fits the rhyme scheme, the rhythm scheme. So there you go. Thank you, Scotch. You're the best around. Folks, it is Shag Snag Body Bag. This is where we are going ahead and talking about different things about this film. Shag means we just passionately, just aggressively love it. Snag means, it's something that we just really want to take home to mom. And then Body Bag, what can we do without? So, Scotch, shag it.
We talked a little bit about Tarantino verse and like him, like I love when there's sharing the names and stuff like that. And I don't really want to use that as my shag. I'd rather use the discovering amazing actors that I'd never seen, and primarily, obviously Christoph Waltz, but Daniel Bruhl and Michael Fassbender are two guys that really just, I go, who are these guys? Yep. I can't wait to see them again.
Yeah,
and I just love that with Shoshana with Melanie Laurent.
Yep.
All these new actors that you discover and you just want to see more of because they're so amazing. And I just love that feeling of, oh my God, who is this person? This performance is fantastic.
And it's cool that Tarantino likes to kind of bring people that he's worked with into future movies too. So you do get some callbacks to people he'll bring in from the last movie, like obviously Samuel L. Jackson having just about a role, or at least talking
something in everything
in pretty much every movie he's done. So it's except for Reservoir Dogs, but that's super cool. Nate.
So I want to shag alt history, and I should say Tarantino's alt history. I think this is so I love all three. Or I love Inglorious Basterds and Django. I think very different versions of alt history. The part of it's Once Upon a Time that I love is the last 30 minutes, right? Like it's sort of an interesting, like he's not trying to be clever about it per se, right? Like it's like really on the nose, just like, oh, you know what we all would have liked to have happen? I'm going to just lay it right out. There's not sort of like this twist to it or anything. It's like, no, the Nazis should have fucking died in a theater. And with the worst possible conditions. Let's just go ahead and play that out, So I think I like that approach, and there are some fun. It's sort of hard to make these very violent alt history things fun, and yet somehow he does.
Well, even with Once Upon a Time, slamming her head into the freaking mantle, and just the dog biting his balls,
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Anyway, I'll shag. You give me all the Tarantino alt history endings you want, and I'm going to eat them right up.
Tony, you got a shag for us?
I think just how this movie uses cinema and the power of cinema, and how there are so many things in this movie that are related to cinema. Like, for example, Archie Hickox is the Michael Fassbender character. He was a movie critic before he joined the war.
Yeah.
Operation Kino is based around this double agent who's a German film actress. The whole premiere, the whole, the using of this Nazi propaganda film, Stolz de Nation, that is sort of based on like an Audie Murphy thing. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they use actual pieces of cinema to blow up the theater. Like,
film starts the entire
it's
fire.
Nitrate cinema. It's 35 millimeter nitrate film that will explode, and they have a huge pile of it behind the screen, and that's how they ignite this whole bloodbath. I think that for me, and I know that Quentin is a huge fan of movies, obviously, but the way that he used cinema in this context is nobody else has done it like that or would ever do it like that.
Well, and only Quentin would have know of a clip of that actual movie clip of that guy not letting the kid on the train car with the film.
Right.
Like, where the hell did that come from?
Right.
How did he know about it? And then he used that as the idea in this movie. It's like only a total film nerd would absolutely know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. I'm kind of co-signing you there because I think there's a scene in the movie that really just speaks to what Tarantino can do at his best, which is there's color to this scene. There's amazing music. It's the death of Zoller and Shoshana.
Yes.
And it's just everything about that movie. When she first goes up to him and it's got like the music's kind of like starting to build, and then all of a sudden you hear the drums. and all of a sudden, boom, he starts blasting her and she's flying back and like
Slow
the blood
motion.
that's coming out. And it's just like her dress color, like everything about it is just really beautiful. And it's very cinematic and just like, it's almost Tarantino showing off like I can do super epic scenes like this if I want to. I'm good at it, and it's a beautiful scene. And it's like just that little music. It's a Morricone from another movie, and it's just like it's so perfect in that scene, and I love it, and I love that scene with a passion.
Yeah, that scene blew me away the first time I saw it. I was like, you could not have surprised me more. Like you could not have had a better twist at that moment for me. The music in that scene is from some Italian movie that is completely has nothing to do with World War II. It's an Ennio Morricone piece, but it's in some throwaway movie.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music that Morricone's ever done, and he uses it in such an incredibly poetic way that I was like, this is insane how good this is.
Absolutely. All right, snagging. Nate. Snags.
So I'm going to snag what I have just decided to call anticipatory tension. So like I'm desperately anticipating what's going to happen next, but at the same time I'm so tense right in the moment, right? Like it's like a version of this is a weird comparison, but it happens in The Office, the show, right? Where it makes you uncomfortable, but you're also really excited about, seeing what's going to be. So, they create this situation. A lot of times in movies, I think the tension is primarily used to want to get you out of that scene, out of that moment, right? Like that's the way this sort of design goes. And in this one, right, it has sort of like, I don't want to say a happy element, but like a sort of like childishly excited feeling, like in that opening scene, right? They're just, you're desperate to hear which way he's going to go, but also so uncomfortable with the way that he's sort of allowing things to hang in the air. And so I think from this, this movie does it, maybe as well as any movie's ever done it, that sort of.
I feel like the only scene in the movie that does not have tension is when Mike Myers is explaining Operation Kino.
Right.
That, I think every other scene in the movie has some built-in tension.
I agree.
That is like, has you like a little bit uneasy.
Right.
And that's what I dig about this movie for sure.
I'm going to get to that.
Tony.
I think that really it's what we're talking about in terms of, you mentioned the Tarantino universe and how the characters that he uses, he's referencing this name in this other movie, this other person is this other person's grandfather or great-grandfather. For me, it is the sort of the Tarantino isms, like the things that he puts in his movies that are just signature things that you recognize, it's a Tarantino thing. Like my favorite thing in Pulp is the fact that John Travolta's character dies, but then he comes back, right? And it's because of the structure of the movie, right? Like he's telling this story out of order. In Inglorious Basterds, he does that with Shoshana, right? Like she dies, but then she comes back on the screen. And she's the revenge, right? So she comes back and she is going to exact her revenge against all these Nazis, right? She's going to take what she wanted to do when in that first scene, and she's going to realize it. And the way that Tarantino shoots it, and I also think this is one of the best shot Tarantino movies in terms of cinematography, lighting, all that sort of stuff. I mean, there's this scene where it's just smoke, and you just see her face in the smoke, and she's laughing, right? Yeah. She's just like, ha ha, like she's doing this maniacal laugh. And I think that for me, that is the thing that I definitely want to snag is like the things that Tarantino has done, he did it the best in this movie.
Sweet. Dig it.
Scotch.
I'm snagging Brad Pitt just because this is one of my favorite roles of his. And when he does the fucking accent in the theater, I was not ready for it because when he said he could speak the most Italian, and when he says it that first time, I laughed so hard because I was like, what an amazing! Wasn't even ready for him to do it in his, was it Kentucky or Tennessee drawl, but with an Italian accent. It was so great. He's got some amazing lines. And I just love that character.
His facial expressions in the scene when like he keeps asking him to say it, and you can see he's getting annoyed because he knows that some fuckery's happening, and he's just like, but he's still kind of doing it.
Yeah.
And the last one, he kind of just
Gorlami.
Yeah.
So I also like, I mean, jumping on that real quick, one of my favorite things that actors do is they take the words on the page, but with just pure pronunciation, they become memorable.
Right.
Sand, get. And like, I hear that in my head, you know, when occasionally it'll just like happily pop in, and it's not the words, obviously. Right. On the page, that would look like nothing.
Right.
But it's all of a sudden this like incredibly memorable line. Yeah. And I just, that's for me, I'm like, oh, that's what great actors do.
And the one that's been sticking with me, like, since I watched my last rewatch was a fucking basement.
Right.
Like,
you don't got to be Stonewall Jackson. You don't find a fucking basement.
Fucking basement. I had to do it. I thought somebody would, but Christoph Waltz. I mean, it's got to be. I'm snagging him, and it's actually great that you mentioned Brad Pitt, because the fact that they bring those two characters together at the end so they can have a conversation is great, because it's the two people who've been kind of at opposite ends of the movie, and they finally come together, and you get this great conversation. And I love Hans Landa's his acting when he's like, "How do you know our names?" And he gets so pissed off.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "I thought we were on the same level here."
There's obviously not the mutual respect that I thought.
Right.
Yeah.
His reaction is
He was so hurt.
He's
Like,
so hurt that he's like, "I gave you a lot more respect than this."
Right.
And I thought I would be getting the respect. It was great. And then of course that's a bingo. Like his face just lights up, and then he kind of ponders it again. Is that how you say it?
That's how you say it, right? You just say bingo.
Bingo. But yeah, just somebody who I watched this movie. I was like, where the fuck did this guy come from?
Yeah.
How did he find him? This is the best actor in the world. Why isn't he like well known? And then of course he comes back in Django and does a great job.
Right. It's almost the same character in a lot of ways.
It's almost the same character in a lot of ways. But since then he's kind of mellowed out. Hasn't done a whole lot.
Which is a little
he's done a
surprising.
lot. It's just not things that I've actually been seeing. So
Right.
I'm sure he's still an amazing actor, but goddamn, this performance, just talk about knocking it out of the park. Just
Fantastic.
you got one pitch and he just smokes it. So love it. Body bags.
I'll start. Okay, we mentioned this scene a little bit earlier. And I fucking hate. And I also mentioned Eli Roth kind of taking me out of the moment, but nobody took me out of the moment more than Mike Myers.
God, I'm going to co-sign this one.
Yeah, Mike Myers in this, he gets this stupid little smile on his face, and it's like, it's literally like he's doing a Saturday Night Live character, and he's trying to be funny, but it's not. He's trying to be serious and funny. It's so weird and so out of place, and I fucking hate it.
And with
so
the
much.
guy sitting at the fucking like piano or
Well,
something.
that's Churchill,
That's
right?
Churchill,
That's Churchill. Just some guy.
Yeah.
The piano player.
He's just. Oh, I thought that it was just like a piano player.
No,
that's-
that's in church.
No, let me just I'll just say one tiny thing to and make that my body bag.
He was actually the grandpa, the piano player in Kill Bill.
It's actually not it's not just Mike Myers. It's like all of a sudden he Wes Anderson was called in to direct one scene.
Right.
And then he's like, okay, cool. And then he's back out of the movie. Right. Like I don't know, it has this weird, bizarre feel to it. And
It is shot in a weird way. Yeah, it's definitely different. It stands out.
Yeah.
It's like they were going for the fucking Tom Cruise Tropic Thunder fucking cameo for some reason, and it just doesn't. I don't love it either.
Like I said, it's that one scene. It's the one scene in the movie that doesn't have any tension. It's just kind of there.
Yeah. And even
for story purposes.
As much as I like Michael Fassbender, his accent's almost a little cartoonish in a way. His English accent's kind of because he's German in real life, right? As far as
I believe
Michael
so.
Fassbender. I think he's actually Irish.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, I think he's Irish.
Well, his English accent was just a little bit, especially with Mike Myers. It just that whole scene was just kind of cartoonish in a way. So
Tony,
yeah, I can.
What are you body bagging here?
I can dig that. I think that especially when you first see the movie and everything that precedes that scene, this incredible interaction between Hans and Monsieur Lapetit at the dairy farm, the Basterds, the bear Jew, all that sort of stuff, and then you're sort of dropped into this scene that is just for the purposes of Tarantino really likes to talk about movies. Archie Hickok, the Fassbender character, was a film critic, he wants to talk about David L. Selznick and, Louis B. Mayer, and he knows that a lot of people don't know who that is, and he's kind of just showing off at this point.
Like he's name dropping through the movie in a way.
And he name drops those things, and it's sort of like, okay, I know who those people are because I have devoted a lot of my life to watching movies and cinema, but most people don't really understand that.
Tarantino can do weird flexes like that.
Yes, exactly. And I think that that definitely stands out. The Eli Roth thing is still going to stick in my craw. Like, the accent just, and I like that character. I like the Bear Jew. I think it's a great character, and that kind of leads to some of the levity of the movie. Like the Hitler character he's almost like Charlie Chaplin and like the Great Dictator.
Yes, that's I had that same thought.
And so that's great. I love that. But yeah.
All right, my body bag is, and this is just one other scene in the movie that just kind of, and it's brief, like 2 seconds. Why, when Shoshana meets Goebbels, does all of a sudden it shows him fucking the girl?
Yeah.
The translator.
He's just like, rah, ah! He's making all the crazy noises.
And how does she know just by looking at her? Like, oh, yeah, I know what her real role is because
it's a French girl, so it's like she considers her a traitor. Like, I mean, essentially, like, because she's working with the Germans.
Okay.
Or if that was really happening and she was just like, oh, obviously he's fucking her, right? She's just projecting that.
It was just a weird little moment to put in there, just like for that 2 seconds, just showing him
I guess I saw it a little bit as like her demeaning him also in her mind, right? Like he looks like a real fucking bad lay. You know
right.
What I mean?
Yeah. Right.
He's screaming like a maniac.
What the fuck's he doing, And doesn't the French chick look kind of bored too? I don't remember.
Yeah. She got kind of
it's almost a callback to Pulp Fiction with Zed and Marcellus Wallace.
Oh yeah, kind of filmed almost the same a little bit. Very interesting.
Okay, so I had a problem with a similar scene. What is the deal when the guy's sitting there? The other, he's sort of trying to call him out on his accent, and then it goes to the one guy, and then it goes to this weird like whipping scene.
Oh, because he's
for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Does he know that guy? Did that guy whip him?
No.
Is that what that was about?
It's Stiglitz, and he's sitting there going, that whole scene and him having to play along is torture for him.
Right.
Is that what it is? Is that all he was trying to convey?
Yeah. It's basically this is the worst thing ever, and he's imagining himself getting whipped, and that's probably like him thinking about when he actually was whipped.
I thought I had missed something. I was like, did I miss something in his backstory?
Yeah, I kind of thought they were trying to make it like Hellstrom was the dude that whipped him, but I was like, that wouldn't make any sense because if Hellstrom was the one who whipped him, he would know I whipped Hugo Stiglitz, and I would know that's who that is.
But I feel like they didn't. Those two scenes, the Goebbels fucking the translator and the scene where he's like getting whipped, I feel like it wasn't like clear enough what the fuck they were showing us. You know what I mean? Like the whole movie like is pretty straightforward. Those two little parts were like kind of like, what is going on?
I instantly got that. I thought this guy is miserable right now because he's having to play along. Yeah. He wants to kill this motherfucker so bad, and he has to hold it in, and so he's just kind of just picturing himself getting whipped. That's kind of what I thought when I first.
It's also interesting the Stiglitz character that every time they show him and it does like the guitar, it's so great. And it's like very much like whenever Beatrix Kiddo is around some of the people, all the people she's going after, and it does that like that little alarm sound, kind of doing that exact same thing that he did in Kill Bill. So
I do love in that scene real quick when Hellstrom walks up and says, "I wasn't talking to you, Lieutenant Munich. Right. I wasn't talking to you, Lieutenant Frankfurt or whatever." Right. Basically saying, "You're from there. You're from there." And that is just so. I love that so much.
I do that when I'm in the Central Valley. I'll walk out like, "Oh, what's up, Turlock? Mm-hmm. Oh, what's up, Ceres? I can tell.
What's up, Oakdale Bud?"
You can definitely tell Oakdale Buds for sure.
For sure.
All right, we're gonna come on to our next scene, which is streaming.
We're doing multiple scenes.
I mean, we're gonna show up for streaming recommendations. How about that?
Crackle, Pluto, HBO, Find Anime on Crunchyroll, Peacock, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, Disney, Sling TV, Shudder, Fubo. What the fuck is Fubo? I'm sure it'll cause a sensation. It's our streaming recommendations.
All right, streaming recommendations. I'll be interested to see how many people are recommending Tarantino or Tarantino adjacent.
I am not.
Nate, you can start us.
I leaned alt history.
Okay.
So this is not at all the same tone, but it kind of made me want to think, okay, well, I want to go back and watch some other alt histories. What are the ones that are notable? And it turns out there's not a ton. Like this is actually not something that gets pulled a lot of times. But the one that I think is the most memorable for me is Red
Miracle?
Dawn.
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn from the original in '84. And you know, Soviets invade, they parachute in, and it's obviously, you know, a much darker alt history, right? It's not celebrating the way that we should have gone. In fact, you might even argue that it's, you know, there's a sense in which it's like a horror, you know, like a you know, horror kind of dream, you know, like a night, you know, some sort of nightmare that kids would have had then. But it's really good, has some great stars in it. So if you want to watch that right now, it's on Prime.
Dude, that fucking movie that fucked me up when I was a kid.
Yeah,
It's a great movie.
Good movie though. So one of the things I loved about this, kind of, you know, speaking of the alt history, is like seeing a kind of a buffoonish Hitler and basically obviously see him getting punished is fantastic and murdered. But the idea of a buffoon Hitler is fantastic to me. And a movie that came out not too long ago, Jojo Rabbit, is just a fantastic movie.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen
It's really good. And when I rewatched this, I was immediately like, it's definitely copying the silly like caricature Hitler guy, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. It's a really quirky movie, very different. Amazing cast. Scarlett Johansson's in it. Sam Rockwell and Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi.
Yep.
So he directs it, and he's Hitler in this as a figment of this boy's imagination, and it's great. It's super entertaining. It says it's available on DirecTV if you have a sub for that, which is, I don't know.
I think you just need like TBS or whatever, like,
yeah, but
you know, whatever.
you can rent it on anything.
You can watch it with commercials.
Yeah.
You can.
I can. Right.
All right, Tony, what you going with?
This movie is sort of a men on a mission World War II film. That's how Tarantino describes it. And there's a lot of those. I mean, The Dirty Dozen is probably one of the most famous ones. One of the movies that I found out about when this movie was coming out was a movie called Kelly's Heroes, which is a movie with Clint Eastwood. Donald Sutherland is in it as well. He's like a stoner tank operator guy.
Telly
Savalas is in it.
Great tank battle in that movie.
Yeah. The premise of the movie is these guys find out about this gold in this German Nazi castle, and so they go on this mission to get it. It's like 1970, I want to say.
Yeah.
Very much in the same vein, and it was definitely an influence on Quentin for this movie. So definitely check out Kelly's Heroes. I think you can probably rent it on Prime. It might even be like on YouTube for free. But yeah, excellent movie.
Donald Sutherland's so good in that.
And I think that later influenced a little bit Three Kings as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kind of the same plot. My recommendation, if you can't get enough Christoph Waltz like me, you definitely got to watch Django. If you've not watched Django Unchained, it is a tough watch. It's obviously dealing with the issue of slavery, but a little bit of alt history in the sense that, I mean, you're going to get your comeuppance on the bad guys in a movie like that. But Dr. Schultz is the character played by Christoph Waltz. A little bit similar.
Yeah, but incredibly likable.
Very likable.
Yeah.
So you take his personality as an evil person in Basterds, and now you get the kind, gentler, but also aggressive when he needs to be.
Right.
The Waltz charm is just, it's undeniable. Everything that he delivers in these Quentin movies so far has been incredible.
Absolutely. So there you go. That is.
I'm going with a series on Hulu that fucks with time, alternate history, 11/22/63.
Yeah.
James Franco, however you feel about James Franco, I kind of dig him in this. It actually works. It's a tough like sort of project to undertake, I think. But I think it's really cool, alternate history type stuff, dealing with the JFK assassination.
I actually liked that one.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
And I hate James Franco. And
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like,
that was before he
polarizing,
was revealed as kind of a dirtbag.
Oh, I'm not even talking about that. I think just people are like polarizing as far as people think he's either good or
he is
terrible.
a garbage actor.
I thought you were going to go with The Man in the High Castle. Like that's.
Oh, Man in the High Castle was dog shit.
Oh, okay, you didn't like it.
So I watched the first. I mean, they did multiple seasons of that dog shit, and it really got me in the beginning. I was like, "This is going to be such a cool show," and then it just never went anywhere and sucked. So don't watch that one. Watch the
Watch The Handmaid's Tale if you want.
Oh, Handmaid's
really
Tale
wild.
is so
all
fucking
his
dope.
alt history.
Really good.
My girl E. Moss coming through.
All right, we're moving on to our final category here. No jet wash for Maverick, Meg's still on that goose stick. Iceberg list Titanic, Leo's drawing that nude shit. Jim fucks Nadia like we all thought he should. Ricky and Doughboy get the fuck out the hood. Luke hooks up with Leia just like he's intending. It's time for a reshelf and alternate endings.
There's something so Stockton about that fucking beat.
Stockton.
Stockton Cali.
We're going to reshelf or offer some alternate endings for this movie. I actually don't have one, but I do have a movie ending song. I thought it would have been appropriate, at the end of the movie, a little Dead Kennedys, Nazi punks, fuck off. It would have been perfect. You could have dropped that in there at the end. A little aggressive, a little on the nose, but why not?
I like it.
Oh, and watch the movie Green Room that has a great rendition of Nazi punks, fuck off, and is a fucking amazing film.
That's
Check
a great
it out.
movie.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie.
All right. So, the ending's so satisfying. It's so great. But, so the only thing I thought of is I thought it might be kind of fun to extend it a little and don't have him actually carve the swastika into his forehead right there. Have him actually make the hand off and have it kind of fade to black or whatever. And then it says 2 years later or whatever. And there's Hans Landa sitting on his porch in Nantucket Island.
It's good.
He thinks he's got away with it. He's all happy, and he's sitting there smiling. All of a sudden, there's footsteps on the boardwalk or whatever, walking up, and there's fucking Aldo Raines, and he's like, "Where's your uniform?" And then maybe either do the swastika thing or just that.
Oh, I thought you were even gonna say. I thought it would be cool if we don't see it, and then 2 years later you think he's gotten away with it, and you see his hands and his feet, and he's walking around his mansion or whatever, and then all of a sudden it pans up to the end, and then you see that it's already carved into his forehead. You know?
Okay,
what I mean?
yeah,
that's good too.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
See, okay, now you've got me thinking. I'd rather just have the cute sitcom of Hans Landa now being just the nice little neighbor up in Connecticut and just getting along with his neighbors and being the nice guy that everybody's like, oh yeah, this guy moved from Europe. He's a really nice dude, and I want to see his 10 episodes of him just doing nice things around the community.
That's it. Okay.
London knows best.
So my alternate ending is I said earlier, I have an issue with Landa getting outsmarted or seemingly getting outsmarted and kind of not coming out on top because he's sort of billed as the guy that always comes out on top and he's always ahead of everybody. So I'm thinking this. So they go, the whole thing goes down. He's figured out the plot already. He takes Aldo away. I also don't like Aldo getting the upper hand on him because Aldo seems dumb to me. You know what I mean? He seems good at what he does, but he also doesn't seem in any way the intellectual equal of fucking Hans Landa, right? So, I think he kills them, right? He kills fucking the guy from The Office and fucking Landa. Or the guy from The Office and
Brad Pitt.
and Brad Pitt. Yeah. And then he goes back, and I think he still doesn't know about Shoshana's plot, right? So he maybe even foils the other dude's plot and thinks everything's cool, and then the fucking shit goes down. But Landa somehow is smart enough to get out of the theater. It all burns down. All the 4 people that he thinks if the war will be over, it all burns down. But then you find out that he is still one step ahead, and then he sort of tries to take over being the head of the Nazi people, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
he comes out smelling like roses no matter what because he's Hans Landa and he's this evil villain that's way ahead of everybody no matter what.
So he becomes the new Hitler.
Basically, yeah. I mean, he's super evil the whole movie, right? He's just killing people willy nilly. I mean, why not be the new fucking Führer or however you say it?
Mein Führer.
The head Führer. Well,
No, I think you got it right. The last.
Führer.
is there a chance he could be the head vampire?
Well, so I was just gonna say, so So the movie, exactly as it is. Okay. So the bastards are up in the balcony. The fire, they set the film on fire. They're fucking machine gunning, right? And all of a sudden, there's like, explodes, okay, and blows the roof off a portion of the theater, okay? So you're exposed to the outside. And you see that, like, the moon up there is just a giant moon. And all of the bastards, turns out, they're werewolves.
Werewolves.
Yeah, they jump.
Wow.
Going there.
Oh shit.
I dig that.
What did you think they were going to be, vampires?
Lichens.
No, they're werewolves. They jump down and eat Hitler's face.
That would ring true too, because
black.
there's this. Remember that fake movie trailer, the werewolf women of the SS in between.
That's right, in the
Grindhouse.
That was the Grindhouse intermission.
That's the. I think it's the Rob Zombie one.
Yeah.
And Nick Cage is Fu Manchu in it or something like that.
Yep. That was
We call it Inglorious Grindhouse.
Inglorious Grindhouse.
I like it.
Shout out to my dad for the.
Flip the script, huh?
That's right.
Wow.
That.
Dude.
All right.
Love it.
I'll take it.
Tony, you got an alternate ending or anything?
No, I would love to see a David Lynch version of this movie for sure.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's
I love
awesome.
that swap. Yeah.
I just watched Blue Velvet.
Incredible.
Dude, that's fucking so wild.
Maybe Aldo Rain's backstory. Maybe like a prequel with Aldo.
That would be cool.
His days back in the running moonshine in Tennessee.
I love that.
Like what happened to his neck?
What happened to
why
his
does
neck?
that have a scar?
That is the question, and like Tarantino says, he'll never say what actually happened.
Do we think it's a like a knife scar or a rope?
Looks to me like a
rope
rope.
burn?
He's into BDSM. It's
Him and the guy from NXS.
50 Shades of Aldo.
All right, folks. Well, that is Inglorious Basterds. I was always waiting until we would get to talk about this movie, and it's after 100 and whatever episodes we've done, here we are, and I'm glad. I'm excited.
Dude, super fun.
So what's what's the next movie we do? But what's the next Tarantino movie that's like the obvious progression from this? Is it Django or is it?
It's gotta be
Once
Jackie
Upon a Time
Brown.
in Hollywood?
Yeah, I would love to talk about Jackie Brown, to be honest.
Reservoir Dogs.
I would do Django for sure, but I know I'm the minority there.
I just this movie was really good. I really liked it, but for all the tension and everything, like none of it holds up to the fucking scene of DiCaprio in his trailer talking about how he fucked up the fucking scene because he's a dumb drunk.
Yeah.
And just fucking the like emotional like gravity of that shit. Just I don't know, man. It's
Or we can go
so
batshit-
fucking good to me.
We can go batshit crazy and do True Romance.
Yeah,
just
True
Tony
Romance.
Scott
Fucking True
directing
True Romance is great.
True Romance is really good.
Tarantino script.
I would love
that
to do
Dennis
that.
Hopper, Christopher Walken scene is a chef's
Unbelievable.
kiss right there.
Legendary.
So our numbers are starting to rise a little bit, and we need you as listeners to help us out. So here's your challenge. Go to either Spotify or Apple Pods or wherever you listen and find that little share button. Mm-hmm. When it says, when you pop the share button, it asks you what you want to do. Pick the text message.
Yeah, and because all contacts.
Think about send it to everyone you know. No, we're just pick the two people you talk about movies with, who know each other, and then start a thread and be like, "I love this podcast. You guys would dig it," and get us a couple more listens. Just see if they like it. All right, and then follow us on Spotify if you're not. Give us a positive review on Apple Pods.
Or a negative review. I stand by the thought that any publicity is good publicity. So if you think we suck, please tell us.
And nowadays
Publicly.
a lot of us are part of forums. We're on Reddit or we're on Discord or other social media sites. Any group you're in that has a lot of folks,
Just put us out there. Just say, hey, one little post.
if you've got some credibility with them, just be like, look, hey, there's this podcast, badass.
Do it right now. Help us out.
Shout out to my buddy Carl. I know he did that with the group that he's in, like a comic book group.
Yeah.
Carl Hungus?
Call Hungus?
Not Carl Hungus, but but shout out to you, buddy. And so he shared us, quite a few times on that.
And speaking of that, right? Like, follow our socials. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. And if you comment on stuff, if you post there, you're going to get a response from us. We always respond. We always comment. And so if you want to engage us, just jump in on it.
All right, folks. Next week, we are coming out with a most memorable movie villain draft. Will Hans Landa be picked?
I don't know.
We shall
Pretty
see.
deep.
Will you be
freaking
disappointed in our picks?
Probably.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Tony, thanks for coming, man.
Tony, we
Really
appreciate
great.
you. A
Thank
lot
you
of
guys so
great
much.
Tarantino knowledge. As soon as you get hired as his assistant director, dude, we'll just invite us to the premiere one day.
Yeah, I'm sending him my shoe size right now.
All right, man. BBK, we love you. We appreciate you all. Have a great evening. See you next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies. Just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. It's got Zach and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start